Hello, my name is Sheryl Shaffer, and I'm a longtime producer here at the Media Center in Palo Alto. Have you ever wondered what happens to veterans when they get out of the military with a disability? A lot of them have that mind chatter where they can't stop thinking about things that happened to them in the military. They've experienced multiple traumas. Well, today I'm going to present to you some interviews from veterans who are part of the the Veterans Art Project in Vista, California. They actually tell their stories of transformation and what happened to them in the military and how they are coping with that trauma through creating art. Our first interview is an incredible story about a homeless veteran, a Navy veteran by the name of Darron Devillez, and he discovered art, and it truly was, for him, a transformative experience. You will not believe what he is doing now. Listen to this interview, it's fantastic.
Celebrate the art of veterans. In addition to celebrating the art, I want to invite you all to investigate the art, get to know the artists, and find out the healing properties behind this process of making art. In 2008, I was a homeless veteran holding a sign in San Diego. When they first gave me my diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, which I had been living with for 30 years undiagnosed, they told me that I would be unemployable. They told me that it was permanent. They told me that it was complex, complicated, and individualized. But it kind of made sense. It was devastating for me to hear that I was unemployable. In that 30-year period, I was self-medicating. I was neglecting my family, my children, my wife. And I became addicted to several different substances. And I didn't realize at the time that I was using that as a mask to cover up the flashbacks I was having, to try to get rid of the nightmares I was having every single night. And so when the VA offered to give me a shoebox full of pills, I said, that's not going to work for me. First of all, I'm an addict. I'll abuse them eventually. And then I'll try to sell them. And then I'll go back to prison. And I didn't want that anymore. So my therapist said, okay, let's try something new. Let's try art. I said, art? I said, I'm not a very good artist. She said, that's not the point. So she literally brought a box of crayons and some construction paper to one of our first meetings. And I put my hand on the paper. It was right around November, and I made my little turkey. But it made me smile. I hadn't smiled in a long time. And things progressed. We did painting. We did ceramics. I built a mask. I started telling stories, another form of art. And now, today, I'm a communication professor at 5 different colleges in San Diego. I am employable. I have my family back. Now, to further prove that art for me works, I've had some challenges along the way. We all went through COVID together. But 2 years ago in May, my son passed away in a horrible accident. And the first thing I turned to was art. I helped that art get me through that grief. Like my PTSD, though, that type of grief is powerful. But I'm not going to ever let it take me back to the person I thought could handle my situations on my own, who thought had all the right answers, which were the wrong answers. So for me, that's the power of art in my story. And each and every veteran here has a powerful story to tell. And it starts with the expression of their art. Their art can tell part of that story. So I invite you all today to walk around, and remember, I may just call you to the microphone and ask you to come up and give us your story. Now, for all the vendors here and everyone else, I may come up and ask you to say, hey, what is your call to action? What are you doing to help us spread the word and to advocate for art as a new healing modality? I'm sure the medications that come in a little yellow pill box serve their purpose for some veterans. But for some others, we need an alternative. And they should put art in a little yellow bottle with a cap and say, take this. Because if it can turn a 9-time felon, homeless veteran, into a college professor and a nationally recognized storyteller, it can do the same for each and every other veteran, not just us here, the ones we see out on the street holding a sign. I may ask you, what's your call to action? What are you doing? Because it takes a village. It took a village to get me here, and now you guys are part of my village. And I am forever grateful. That's why I come to these events, to tell my story, to hopefully inspire someone else that life isn't over after PTSD or TBIs or sexual trauma. It can continue. All right?
Okay, that interview's over, so now we're going to go ahead and go to the second interview. Is with another U.S. Navy veteran, and her name is Carolina Hernandez. Carolina was 18 years old when she came to the United States from Mexico, and she did not speak a single word of English. So in her time here, she met a U.S. Navy recruiter and became fascinated with how could she join the Navy and make that a career. Where, long story short, she was told to learn to speak English, and she did. And what she does now is she makes incredible fashion out of unique, everyday objects. Here's the interview with Carolina, which was done at the VetArt Pop-Up Cafe in Sacramento in 2022 and at the VetArt Pop-Up Cafe in Los Angeles at the historic Bob Hope Patriotic Hall. Here's Carolina. Carolina, so great to see you again, since I haven't seen you since Sacramento. So can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Carolina Hernandez. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I moved to the States with a desire to become a fashion designer when I was 18 years old. When I came here, I had the dream, right, to go to school, but then I had a problem. I didn't speak English, so I had to go and kind of like learn that first. And then I met somebody who was in the Navy, and I was like, you're in the Navy? He's like, yeah, you can go see the world. And I'm like, how do I do that? And he's like, well, you join the Navy. So that's kind of like how I joined the Navy and served on board USS Pearl Harbor and deployed 3 times during my time on active duty. Yeah, during my time here, learning how to speak the language, I remember I used to put stickies everywhere, on the table, on the chair. And I was very determined, because I'm like, if kids can learn another language, I can learn another language. So that was my challenge and my motivation to literally push myself and learn. Part of me, if I wanted to join the Navy, was learning the language, and that was, like one of the challenges prior to joining the service. But then, until this day, there's things that I have to Google. I say things backwards sometimes, but I think it's, part of the process.
So I know you made the Navy a career. So how long have you been in so far?
I joined the Navy in 2000, and I served on board USS Pearl Harbor for 4 years, deployed 3 times. And then when I got out, I'm like, you know what? I kind of love the camaraderie and the brotherhood. So I joined the reserves and deployed again in 2012. So now I'm still in the reserves, and I've been in for 19 years.
So are you going to make it 20 or 25?
I think I want to make it as long as they keep me.
Amen to that. How did the Navy experience change you?
So many ways. I feel like all the skills that I learned in the military, like working in team environments, working with diverse groups, working during stressful situations. I feel like all those skills is what literally the Navy prepared me for. Like right now, I feel like when I do a fashion show, it's the same thing I learned in the Navy, right? Communication, leadership, you name it, right? And it's all because of my military service.
Carolina, we all know when you are in the military, it's can certainly give you a lot of stress. Can you speak to how you dealt with that while you're in and through your work as a fashion designer? Because I think people would really like to know that story.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Being deployed 4 times, it takes a lot of pressure, not just as a person, but family, everything. So after my last deployment, when I came home, I didn't know how to be normal. Like I didn't know how to cope. Like I was kind of ready to leave again. I feel like it took some time for me to adjust to like, no, I'm home. Like I need to, adjust myself and just kind of like start a career or do something where I can just be like everybody else, But I think that's what a lot of veterans struggle with that. So one of the things that I started doing is, besides sewing, because I've been doing it for many years, but literally digging into events with veterans and just kind of like creating art in a way for me to just decompress. Like sewing for me is a way that when I'm sewing, I'm just solving problems in my head. I'm kind of like, when I'm creating is when I'm thinking, oh, okay, then I can fix this, And I feel like for me, it's an outlet to cope with the mental health and the stress pretty much when, after the military service, and even during, military service in the reserve, sometimes we have, things that we're dealing sometimes on a daily basis. And I think for me, fashion is what really keeps me on my feet. And today I'm here with my beautiful models. I make these designs out of non-conventional items, and I'm gonna show you each and every one of them. Today I'm here with my model Haley, and she is wearing this amazing dress made out of teddy bears. And as you can see, I utilized 183 mini teddy bears to decorate this dress. And this is kind of like inspired by the Lolita style, the Japanese style actually, of the costumes that wear in Japan. Okay, and here I have my beautiful model Ken, and she's wearing this dress made out of 3,000 pom-poms. And yes, I glue each and every single one of them in this dress.
How long did it take you to make that one?
I think about like 8 hours to make this dress.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's stunning.
I'm a fast sewer, so.
When you get into it, does the sewing, because this is what happens to me when I edit. I lose track of time.
Oh, same thing. I'm just looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, I need to eat.
Because you get into it and all of a sudden the time flies and it's 3-4 hours later. And I can see how you can make this in 8 hours.
And we have my model, Lachelle. She's rocking this dress made out of 1,280 straws. And as you can see, they're totally functional. I don't know if you'll be able to drink anything with it, but here they are.
How long did it take you to make this dress?
This one I had to do it in 2 days because I ran out of straws. So I have to go get some more.
So hours making the
like
dress.
About 8 hours usually, because I had to make the base first.
And what is the base?
It's fabric. I use like a regular fabric. See, I make a normal dress first, and then for this one I use kind of heavy duty fabrics. That way when I stitch whatever I stitch on it, I know it's not gonna rip. Or if it adds weight like a teddy bear, I know it's gonna hold the weight. Hernandes, and I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I'm actually still in the Navy Reserves. I've been in for 18 years, and I'm a Navy chief.
What do you do in the Navy?
I do logistics, but right now I'm actually attached to a medical unit. So go figure, right? Like needs of the Navy.
Carolina, can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the VetArt.org organization.
Sure. So actually today I'm one of the artists showcasing here in Sacramento, and as you can see, I brought one of my dresses made out of bubble wrap. I also did an event with VetArt on board the USS Iowa where I made dresses for that specific event because I wanted to show some texture, and they're actually right here. I wanted to show some kind of like creative art in just fashion. So I made 3 dresses for that event, one out of bubble wrap, one with balloons, and then another one with pom-poms. So one of the issues that a lot of veterans like myself encounter, right, when we go on deployments, we come back and we feel like everybody changed, but the reality is we changed, right? Things are not the same as, before we left. And I feel like that could be stressful when sometimes we don't know how to transition out of the military, and we go get jobs and we don't last because we just don't know how to cope and how to adapt to a new lifestyle. So I feel like art has been a way for myself and many artists, many veterans, to find a way to balance that, right? Like an outlet to decompress, to use it as a way to remove the stressors, not to get rid of them, but to kind of put them to the side a little bit and create. And I feel like by creating, it kind of like keep us going, keep us motivated, and also keep us entertained, right? Because you make something and you're like, oh my God, I'm proud of my masterpiece. And I get to be happy by seeing my artwork, and also sharing with the community and our veterans like myself are doing, that they can also do themselves to decompress, to deal with any issues they might have, like PTSD, depression, anxiety. And it could be in so many forms. It could be ceramics, it could be painting, it could be fashion, like in my case, right? Or it could be just writing, doodling, you name it. It can go in so many ways.
Our third guest is another U.S. Navy veteran. His name is Reggie Green. Everybody calls him Reggie. Reggie is a ceramics instructor at the VetArt studio in Vista, but what he does, he makes very unique kinds of ceramic pieces. And so we did an interview with Reggie in Santa Cruz, and here is his interview.
Reggie, can you tell us about some of the pieces that we're seeing right here?
Well, these are my pendants. I started off making a couple of pendants that I wore around town for myself, and people kept stopping me, asking me, do I sell them and everything. So I wasn't selling them at the time, but since people kept asking me, I decided to make other and more for other people. So most of my work is from ancient civilization type stuff, because I'm into the Egyptian, Mayans, and different civilizations. So I try to create stuff like that and try to bling them out, because I like jewelry and I like the bling. So I wear a piece, I change them out each day. I'm on a Native American series right now, so that's what I'm wearing right now, and I have one right here. They both have different little feathers. And the unique things about my pieces is they're all original. There's only one of a kind. So anyone that purchased something from me, it's just one of a kind, and they have their own individual special piece.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Well, I got some bigger pieces of my art back here. If you want to check this out. Some of my pieces are from historical people. Like this is the Black Caesar. He was a slave that took over a pirate ship and raided the Caribbean area for many years. And then I got an African mask I put on a t-shirt, my first t-shirt that I produced. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I have Shaka Zulu right here. He's missing his hat right now because I forgot to bring it. And then got a Mayan. And then we have some other of my pieces that I put on a canvas just to show to the people. And then we have Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He liberated Haiti from the French.
And talk about this stunning piece right here.
So this is one of my Egyptian jars, you can see in there, but it's hollowed out. So I'm doing a series of jars that people can put stuff in, and once I figured out I could make jars, I just continued on with it.
And how about this piece right here?
And that's my Egyptian princess. And I also do aliens.
Oh,
So
I hadn't seen the alien before.
I actually working on some alien spaceships and different things. And I made a Viking lamp. So I'm taking care of all cultures. I'm not limiting myself to just doing one culture, trying to take care of everyone. So spreading love to everyone. That's why I got this love shirt on. So.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate your art, and we love what you do.
All right, thank you.
Our next interview is with U.S. Army Vietnam combat veteran and paratrooper Anthony Tony LoBue. Tony is a very unique artist, and he does multimedia. But a few years ago, he was involved in the bronze sculpturing class studio that VetArt had in Southern California. And he has created a unique piece that really can be translated in any language. As to why it's important, you will see that in a moment. And Tony is an advocate to help prevent veteran suicide. Tony, can you tell us about these beautiful pieces that you have created?
Yes, I'd be happy to. First, it's a triptych, which means it's a 3-in-1 artwork. This is a bronze sculpture, which is a 12-step process. And without going into that process, briefly, it was made as a project through VetArt.org when they had their foundry in Fallbrook, California, and they provided free bronze casting for veterans, and I'm a veteran. And as a veteran, I've been concerned about the epidemic of veteran and military suicides as a therapist, but as a fellow veteran who's concerned for their welfare and guide them out of that crisis to get immediate help. So for years I've belonged to a wide variety of veteran organizations, and we're all dedicated one way or another to supporting veterans, military, and their families. So one of my personal projects, goals, objectives, is to intervene and prevent veteran and military suicide. When I had the opportunity to engage in the free bronze casting program through VetArt.org at Fallbrook, California, one of the ideas I had was to create an artwork that would address the epidemic of veteran and military suicides. I did some research, and with my background in the arts for many years, and with experience in various degrees, I came up with the idea of using my own face and my own hands, which would make me an integral part of my own artwork. And also the idea of the three mystic monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And today's title for this triptych is Public Awareness of the Current Epidemic in Suicides. So I'm lumping in all suicides, civilian, military, veteran, and their families, because in all categories we're suffering a phenomenal epidemic. So I try not to give this any more specific title than Suicide Epidemic Public Awareness, because I genuinely believe, from my experience in my vet organizations and civilian organizations, is that a majority of the community, civilians, are not aware of this epidemic of suicides in all these different categories. So by creating a generalized, non-specific title, I invite the spectator to come up with an individual, personal interpretation of this artwork. And they are making the correct choice, whatever choice they make. It's my artwork, but it's their interpretation.
Our final interview is with U.S. Army Vietnam combat veteran Dave Hernandes. Now, Dave, I've interviewed him several times, and this is the interview we did with Dave about his photography that we filmed at the most recent VetArt event, which was in Sacramento in 2023. Good morning. Today we're at the VetArt Pop-Up Cafe on the west steps of the Capitol building here in Sacramento. And we're interviewing Army veteran, Vietnam combat veteran, Dave Hernandes. Dave, we've talked to you before, and today I'd like to talk to you about your beautiful photography, and if you could explain to our audience the techniques you use to create your photography.
Okay, these are my photographic prints printed in the G-clay process on 20 by 30 canvas prints. I have a little bit of everything. I like abstract, and I also like flowers. During the COVID shutdown, I'm in a 12-step program, and we'd have AA Zoom meetings, and I did a lot of flowers at that time. They called me, since you won't believe this, but I'm from the 60s, and so I did a lot of flowers, and they called me Flower Power Dave. And then from that, I went in. I wasn't doing photography for a long time, but I've been into it for really heavy the last year since I've been at the Veterans Home in Yountville. This is from my daughter's garden, Marissa, and it was her bounty. She's an urban guerrilla gardener. And then my granddaughter and my granddaughter Frankie, they do a process on tiles. And when I looked at the tiles, I actually used my phone on these, and I went around the tile and found a section that I really like, and I photographed it, and then I blew it up. That was that, and that's also from that process. And this is from the process too, also, I mean. And then this is some of my psychedelic art, and it's from an old piece of Ford farm equipment, and I just blew it up and did some texture to it, and I like that. And
so Dave, let's go back to this piece over here and tell me, how long does it take for you to make that?
Well, actually, all I did was I photographed it, and then I don't do a lot of Photoshop, but there is a paint process that I can do it, and I just like the effect that it did. It looks like a floating star, Death Star, and little flakes of the yellow gold. That was the front of the cab of the farm equipment, and with the Ford hood emblem on it.
And
I just like the way it comes.
3D effect to it.
Pardon?
It really does have that 3D effect to it. Just pops out on the screen.
Yeah, and my printer basically, he wanted straight lines, and I don't like straight lines. So I had him print it like this, and so anyways, yeah, and then this is my friend's goat, and I gave him a copy of that, from one old goat to another old goat.
Now that's funny.
And this, I get only about 2 people guess that this is turkey feathers. And what I did was I took a picture of the turkey, and then I blew it up and I moved it around, because it came out, I like the soft focus. And mainly they knew the feathers, because if anybody knows a turkey, you can tell by this. Can't always tell by that. And and then this is chalk art on my sidewalk when my granddaughter was 4 years old. So she's Frankie Fitzgibbon.
That's great.
And
I would not have guessed that, Dave.
4 years old. Yeah, and she's much older than that now. So anyways, that's my stuff, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor for me personally to be able to travel with the Veterans Art Project and film these interviews with incredible veteran artists. They really tell their personal stories of how they overcame military trauma and discovered that they were artistic. And becoming an artist is a way for them to help them deal with that trauma. Thank you so much, Stephen Max Dilley and the Veterans Art Project, VetArt.org.